Hello, and welcome to Wealth Health, financial planning and answers for individuals in the healthcare industry. Joining us are Tom Jares and Sean Chadwell, certified financial planners and partners with Premier Planning Group. In this session, we'll be discussing estate planning. Tom, if I may start with you, when it comes to estate planning, many people will want to consider three basics: a will, a trust, and a power of attorney. Can you explain what these are and how they all apply?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think there's a lot of misconception out there when it comes to estate planning. We get a lot of clients who say, "Oh, I want to make sure I pass things, to my heirs tax free," and things like that. And really, the big thing that we try to help our clients with is making sure that if they do pass away, that things move efficiently and potentially privately. So, if you don't have any of these documents in place, it's really up to the court system to determine how things are split, where they go, things like that. That's costly, time consuming, and public. So, speaking to what you had mentioned, when you hear a will, what that does is it directs the probate court where you would like your things to go. So it's still going through probate, but it speeds up the process. A trust is different in that it's a legal document that avoids probate, so it's quicker. And depending on what you're leaving, who you're leaving it to, things like that, you can also put different strings on it. So if you want to, control it from the grave, if you will, that would be the purpose of that. And then taking it a step further, power of attorney is, who's going to make decisions for you or help you if you're not able to do that, on your own. So we see that especially with elderly people who maybe don't have their mental faculties and things like that, and have a older child or someone who they appoint to handle their affairs for them.
And I'll add one more piece to that is actually a living will. So a living will gives directive in the event that you're incapacitated, for your loved ones to be able to make the decision if you're on life support or something like that, whether or not or how long you should stay in that situation. So it gives them directive to kind of take the burden off family members trying to decide, how long to let you be on life support.
Sean, Tom mentioned probate court and described it a little bit. Can you go into more detail of what that process is and what that means to somebody if, in fact, their will goes to probate?
Yeah, so when assets go to probate, so think of, if you have money in a checking account, an investment account, your house, if you don't have a will or you don't have your beneficiaries set up correctly, probate is the process in which the state goes through all of your assets and delegates who gets them. Also, it's public, so people can make claims on those assets. So if you have any dysfunction in your family, for example, you could have aunts and uncles and cousins and all sorts of people in the probate process trying to get assets that you wanted to go to your son and daughter, or maybe a certain family member. So probate can be a very long process as well. Tom and I have seen it in the past. It can be years of things going through the legal system to get to the heirs that were supposed to get the assets.
Well, let's talk about the efficiency of the process also in terms of limiting and avoiding probate and also establishing guardianship of children. Tom, can you discuss that?
Yeah, so on the trust side of things, that's going to avoid probate, so it makes it very quick potentially. Sean mentioned beneficiaries earlier. I had a client who had someone pass away in her family. She was listed as beneficiary on her accounts. Those transferred in a matter of weeks, which is very quick. And then she had other assets that had to go through probate, which in that instance, COVID didn't help her, but that took a couple of years, right? So, that was unfortunate. It all worked itself out. But as far as efficiency is concerned, if you have the documents, again, the will is going to direct where it goes, so it'll speed up the process. If your assets are labeled in trust, you avoid probate, so it's really just having someone settle your estate, so it makes it much quicker. And then obviously beneficiaries, I think whoever you want to name as a beneficiary is fine as long as you've gotten those. But we also encourage people to evaluate those from time to time. We see it where maybe there's an ex-spouse on an account or something, and that's usually not ideal for that person to leave them on there if they ended on non-amicable terms. So it's just something to review periodically as well.
John,
Yeah,
can
I'll
you
go.
elaborate on beneficiaries and some of the considerations that people should have in mind as they choose them?
Yeah, so with that, like Tom said earlier, with the trust side of things, especially in the event, so let's say it's a young couple who has a couple kids. So you need to put who's going to be the guardian if something happened to you and your spouse. And with that, guardianship typically is going to come some sort of control over the assets you leave behind. So using the trust as the vehicle for those assets, then you have the ability to make sure, for example, I'll use myself, we have one person taking care of our children, but we have a different person actually handling the money in the trust if something happened to my wife and I, because we felt like as far as the financial piece, someone else was better handled the money versus the other couple was better handled to handle our kids. And so it really gives you power, if you will, beyond the grave to make sure that that money is used appropriately. Your kids are taken care of. That you can set up lots of different rules as far as, can you give someone access to the funds? If someone's taking over 2 or 3 new kids, maybe they need to upgrade their house, and you can build rules to say, hey, to help upgrade your house, now you're taking care of my kids, you can access funds from the trust. So you don't have to be a multi-millionaire to need or use a trust appropriately. There are lots of good reasons, like we've talked about, even at lower dollar thresholds.
Tom, any final thoughts on estate planning?
No, I think Sean hit the nail on the head. I mean, towards the, once you start to get these things start to get them worked out, it can sometimes create, uncomfortable conversations in your household, depending on if, your mother-in-law is good with money or not, or who's better at watching your kids and things like that. But, it's obviously very important, if you've got, life insurance, other assets, et cetera, to make sure that the appropriate people are, carrying out your wishes. So it's not the most fun thing to talk about, but obviously it's extremely important.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Sean, thank you for your time and this information. We look forward to joining you in our next session of Wealth Health, financial planning and answers for individuals in the healthcare industry.